live in the United Kingdom whatsoever. So only by prioritising the identification of unreported abuse can we begin to address the true scale of the problem, rather than merely documenting its aftermath, the retrospective nature of it. What's more, the petition makes particular reference to gang-based crime. I'm sure many members will be aware of previous inquiries into this particular offence and the severity of it, which should not be undermined. However, we must absolutely remember that children can be sexually abused in many different ways, by different people and in different places and situations, which is precisely, I think, what my Scottish colleague was alluding to. Good way.
I thank my honourable friend for the reasoned caveats that he is laying out, but in the case of Rotherham, and particularly in the case of gangs who are grooming and abusing young children, in my constituency they were predominantly of Pakistani heritage. The reason that that mattered is, had we recognised that early on, we might have been able to disrupt and prevent some of the abuse. So I think in specific cases, we do need this data and we need to be transparent. And sometimes all the caveats in the world are just diluting what should be a laser focus on protecting children.
Wise words, indeed. Now, to turn to the point that my honourable friend touched on earlier, as we know, in England and Wales alone, almost half of all child sexual abuse offences reported to the police in 21 and 22 took place in the family environment. That means the abuse was by parents, siblings, grandparents, or anyone considered one of the family. After sexual abuse by parents, yet a harmful sexual behaviour can take place from siblings. It is the second most common form of sexual abuse within the family environment, according to police. So my point is that we must be cautious about framing child sexual abuse as primarily an external or culturally other threat, when the evidence shows that it is most often perpetrated in an existing relationship of trust and care. In fact, I would suggest that overemphasising outside narratives risks distorting public understanding and could distract from the full range of context in which abuse does occur, preventing I give way.
The honourable gentleman for giving way, and whilst I accept his wider point, given we are about to have a national grooming inquiry, which those of us on this side of the House have to drag the government kicking and screaming to do, would it not be helpful for that inquiry to have the data? Surely sunlight is the best disinfectant when it comes to this issue.
I thank the honourable for his intervention. Of course, the Minister will sum up from the government, and be interesting to see what the government's view on this debate is. I will give way to the honourable gentleman.
Following the honourable lady's very strong and powerful point about the gang-related stuff, this motion you'll probably be voting for has not selectively gone for gangs only. It says all offenders, including gangs. Surely that is the key to get the knowledge, and that sunlight will help us solve those other crimes.
I thank you, honourable gentleman, for his intervention. I apologise for forgetting to introduce the Privy Council knowledge like that. I believe that we must distinguish carefully between evidence-based policy and generalisation, between transparency and sensationalism, and between the legitimate scrutiny of institutional failings and the prejudiced stigmatisation of whole groups of people. In short, we have to treat this subject with great care. I give way.
I'm grateful to the honourable member for giving way. I was a prosecutor for 21 years before becoming an MP. I prosecuted many perpetrators of violence against women and girls, including sexual offenders, and I have awareness that the CPS have inputted data on all manner of aspects of an offender, including ethnicity. I think data can be useful in terms of looking at patterns of offending, but also pockets of offending in particular areas. So would the member agree with me that it can be useful, but that each individual case needs to be looked at in terms of the evidence and prosecuting people based on the evidence rather than anything else, and that it's important that we prosecute as many offenders as the evidence will allow across the country, notwithstanding what their ethnicity, religion or nationality is. Anybody committing acts of violence against women and girls, including grooming gangs, should be prosecuted provided where the evidence allows.
I think, if you would like to say address correctly, I would make the point that children can't look after themselves as well. It behoves every single adult to sort this out. So have they had a conversation by discussing the issue and by going absolutely cross-party. And that way we can improve responses and prevent further abuse and exploitation. I do agree. Now I do see, I haven't said as well that I've done information, but lots of members would like to speak. So I will close at this point simply with this, it would be a great tragedy, in my view, if this issue became a part of football. It should not be, because as we said earlier, sexual abuse is no observed rank in society or geographic place where you live. It can affect everyone from the remotest parts of the UK to some of those suburban parts. Don't you want to thank you?
Right. I remind members that should they wish to speak, they will need to bob. I just want to be sure I get a good idea of who wants to make a contribution, because we want to make sure that everybody has as long as they need to make their contribution. So we'll be doing that calculation now, and I'll call Jonathan Rush.
The overtake is available.
Bank, save and invest. Now. Join the 70 million others getting ahead on Revolut.
Join me, Danny May, as I reveal the true story of Bonnie Business. A true...
It's a pleasure to serve the championship. And I want to begin by putting on